In our last video, part one of the Gaza Envelope, we finished talking about Yavel Raphael and how she had survived in this bomb shelter. And she would go on, what I was going to say is she went on to write a song, New Day Will Arise, and she performed that in the Euro The Voice TV show and competition. And she came in, as I understand it, second place. So out of all this catastrophe and horror, the Jews always do survive, and they will continue. But to go on, this is the outside of the bomb shelter that she survived. The dimensions are not very correct because the entrance is not nearly as wide as it might appear, and the size, it may look much bigger. It's not much bigger than really a walk-in closet, and it's not designed for that many people. It's just simply a shelter if you're out that you can run to. If you're out away from your home and you hear sirens, you can run to for safety. Then they brought us to a place where all the cars, because literally there were over 1,500 cars and maybe even more, because you have to keep in mind there were over 4,000 people at this Nova Festival. Now the truck to the right was one of the Hamas's trucks, and they would mount machine guns on top of the truck and go and just mow people down, just shoot them down just as they ran. The car on the left belonged to a man by the name of Ben Benjamin, and he was at the concert, and he made 3 trips in and out of the concert to rescue people trying to flee. So he drove them far enough away to what he would believe is safety, and then made 3 efforts to do this, and he rescued many people, but on the 3rd attempt he was himself killed. Then this is a picture of just two friends, and their car is the one to the right at the top that I think it's a Mazda. But so literally they've just taken a handful of cars, maybe 15 cars, and made it like a little circle on a cul-de-sac that you can walk around and read these stories and hear these stories about each one. But you have to keep in mind there were thousands of individual stories of what happened to these people, and it's quite heart-rending. Now this is the car, the full picture, and if you can tell, the whole roof of the car is blown off, probably by an RPG or a grenade, and of course they were killed in that. And behind, you see all these cars that are not actually burned up or blown up, but they were also cars that were at the festival that were damaged. And so this literally goes on for acres of these cars, and they will continue to this will just be a memorial. They'll never use these cars again. Then this car, this little Kia, this red Kia, was a mother and her tender-aged daughter were murdered in this car. And you notice the stack of cars behind, which is burned. Some of these cars were burned by the Israeli military when they were shot at, because they were maybe being used by Hamas or whatever. But these cars are just stacked up, and they go on for hundreds of yards. It's really unbelievable to see. And here again is that picture of the car, of Ben Benjamin's car, and I told you about that, making 3 efforts to leave and help people. This was one of the Israeli ambulances that was full of, what I understand was it had like, I think 18 Ukrainian Jewish women, and basically they blew this up, and the only identifying thing is they put this flag on here so you could know that it indeed was an Israeli ambulance. Then we come to a field later. This is a field one of the fields that they would have had to run across. Of course, many of them were mowed down, like I said, by machine gun fire. But in the foreground, or rather in the distance, in the background, you see what is Gaza. So you see how close they are to Gaza. And actually, this is part of the fields that belong to this kibbutz. And this is the kibbutz Kfar Aza. And at Kfar Aza, this is a memorial that they made. The memorial is known as the letters and the names. And over 60 murders happened here. They fought back in this kibbutz, but still it was terrible. And they're still trying to discuss and decide if they will try to come back and rebuild their synagogue, or not synagogue, but rather the kibbutz. Then we come to another town. This is actual town, probably around the size of, again, of Paragould or Brooklyn, somewhere like that, here in Arkansas. And it's called Ophakim. And Ophakim, this little, what's called the Hall of Heroes you see here, was just a little alleyway. And when they attacked Ophakim, when Hamas attacked Ophakim, they weren't able to find the police department, the police station. And that was their plan, but they got goofed up and they couldn't find it. So the police, when they found out that Hamas was raiding the town, they ran down this alley in pursuit of them, and many of them were mown down. So many of the police, they told the number, but I don't recall the number. It was quite a few police that were killed right here in this alley. So it became known as the Hall of Heroes. They just basically piled up bodies with policemen and also civilians as well. But if you cross over this little, you see this little rock fence in the background where the car is sitting. You can really actually step over that. It's not very tall. And then you go to the end of the street, and this house on the left that you see in the next picture is Rachel Edry's home. And the very interesting story here, and this actually made mainstream news, where these many of Hamas came in her home, broke in. She was there with her husband. She's elderly. And what she did, she began to entertain them. She began to feed them and give them nice beverages. And she even spoke Arabic, so she was able to speak to them in their own native language. And she even sang some songs with them that they would have known. And she began to act like that she was their friend. And in the whole time, her son was in special forces. Rachel's son is in special forces. So she was able with her phone, her cell phone, to be in contact, probably by texting, her son. And this went on for hours into the next day. And at one point, her son told her and the dad to go upstairs. And when they went upstairs, the special forces of the IDF broke in the home and basically annihilated the Hamas. I love this story. They took them out. That was it. That was the end of them. So then we come to this lady here is Liat, and she was the desk clerk manager through the day at our little place where we stayed, which is not Ramat Raquel. That's where Liat is from. It's another little kibbutz in Jerusalem, and it did fine. It's in Jerusalem, and no problems there. But Liat has a friend, which was a young man who had a girlfriend. In the next frame, I'm going to show you another kibbutz called Berry. And so his girlfriend was there, and he was a young man. He was going to go visit his girlfriend. And on the day that he visited his girlfriend, that's the day that Hamas attacked. And they threw him and his girlfriend into the back of one of the cars, but miraculously took his girlfriend out and threw the girlfriend's dad in the trunk. He would not survive. The boyfriend did survive, and so did the daughter, which is a wonderful story that they survived, but her father was killed. But this is an aerial picture of Berry Kibbutz. Now, we were able to get close to this, but we didn't get to go in. This is where some very horrific events happened, and so you can imagine this is where a lot of the babies were murdered, just atrocities that you don't even want to even speak of. But you see how there's different homes, and all these homes is like a little neighborhood, this kibbutz, and they all basically farm these fields together. They're cooperative in what they do, and so they share in the wealth, and they share in the hardships, and they share in this tragedy here, this kibbutz Berry, which was one of the very hard hits. But we don't want to end with thinking about the tragedy, because Israel always comes out of the dirt, so to speak. And so on the far right, the big picture is just like a little Jerusalem street, quiet, quaint. You hear birds chirping, and it's just a beautiful city to be. The picture in the middle, the small picture where you see the young lady with the kind of the bars, that's on a bus. And we met this young lady. Her name was Layla. And Mark, you see him in the background, the picture. He was with us on this adventure, and you have to have a bus pass because a RAV card, and he was too old to actually be loaded. He couldn't get it loaded back up with shekels. And we were talking about it on the bus, of course, in English. And Layla, even though she's Arabic, she understood us. She speaks very good English. She worked at one of the hotels there, and she basically gave Mark a bus card with some shekels already loaded on it, and then all he'd have to do is reload shekels. So it was a very beautiful thing to do. And then she told us she was also a believer. She was a Christian. And so it was just a really amazing event. And those kinds of things seem to happen routinely when you're in Jerusalem. Then the picture that you see me in the blue shirt in the bottom and on the left, that's in the area called the Shuk. And it's just like a great big farmer's market, but you can literally find everything. You can buy a toaster at the Shuk. I mean, there's everything, and plus incredible produce like never you've ever seen before. Then the bottom left-hand corner is in the old city again of Jerusalem, and that was the home of one of our dear friends from back in the early 90s that we met, named Eliyahu Swartz. He was known as the artist, but he is, long passed away. He was older then, and now someone else lives in that little apartment. But it's a special place to us. Now this is just the little young lady on the right is named Tima, and she was the young woman who takes care of the